Imagine you've been interviewing for your dream job and you've been going through the process and you're at interview 3 and it goes amazing. Then you get an email and it says, "Hi, we'd like to thank you for taking out the time to interview with us. Thank you for your consideration. However, we have decided to close the opportunity." And you are thinking, what is going on? This company just told me that we are overwhelmed and business is doing well, revenue is growing, and they're looking to hire new people. Then all of a sudden, they don't want to hire anyone anymore. Make it make sense. And as a labor economist, I want to tell you that the answer for this could simply be inflation. So let's get right into it. Earlier this week, the Federal Reserve's favorite inflation measure, known as the personal consumption expenditure, was released, and it found that year over year, inflation has risen by 4.1%. Even when you take out food and energy prices, because those can fluctuate month to month for various reasons, core inflation is still up by 3.4%. So I know a lot of you guys are thinking, okay, what does inflation have to do with work? Since inflation is about goods and services. And let me explain. When inflation is extremely high, companies begin to stop hiring, not because they don't want to and because they are greedy. It's simply because they can't afford to do so, because borrowing costs and the cost to invest rises because of these high interest rates. Whenever a company wants to hire another worker, they're hoping that that person's productivity, that their skill set is going to cover the cost that they are paying that worker through salary and benefits. And when interest rates are extremely high, companies begin to think about, what can we do to manage our productivity with the systems, tools, and people that we already have in place. And this is when you get into the productivity squeeze, to where the current workers are beginning to have higher expectations and are expected to do more work in less time, and they begin to do tasks that are out of their typical day-to-day job description. So let's go back to the job seeker story that I talked about at the beginning of the video. So the company is doing pretty well and they actually want to hire someone really bad, but because inflation is so high, many companies are going to delay the hiring because they're hoping that inflation settles. And not only will they delay hiring, they also will delay any business investments that they need. And also, since we're entering into this technological change, the fourth industrial revolution, there is pressure to implement new systems in terms of technology. So you'll start to see these investments in artificial intelligence and automation. So although financing is more expensive, they will delay investments in expanding a department, opening up a new location, but at the same time make these investments in technology. So it's not that the company doesn't need to hire anyone else. It's simply that their plans are delayed when it comes to the hiring of people. And this is what we call in economics derived labor demand. If they feel that the position is not extremely valuable to this technological change, to the revenue, they will slow down hiring. That is why you'll see economists referring to this as a low hire, low fire economy, because companies begin to be very selective in hiring, even if they know that they need to. And that is essentially what derived labor demand is. And if you like this video so far, feel free to like and subscribe so other people can find this information, those who really need it. Now, I want to reassure everyone that this doesn't mean that every single company is not going to hire people even when they need to. It will still be a case by case basis, but I just wanted to explain as a labor economist why it may feel like the job market is so slow, or why companies say they're hiring one day and then the next day that particular job is canceled. So here is some information I want to share for those who are currently looking for jobs on how to navigate this time where we're having high inflation. Hiring decisions may take longer because of this. Many companies are going to begin to reassess their spending and their employee headcount. Also, anticipate even more interview rounds because when there's a lot of uncertainty, you may be interviewing for one position and then midway through the interview, they actually realize they need to hire people in another department and your skill set may fit that new department and you may have to meet with managers, et cetera, in that particular department. Industries that typically tend to hold up better during times like this, I like to call these inflation-proof industries. Now, you still have to assess this, but typically healthcare, energy, defense, education are all industries where they tend to hold up and are inflation proof. Anything where that particular sector, many different sectors have to depend on it for it to thrive, those are the industries that tend to be very inflation proof. Just think about it. We need electricity, we need other utilities. We are in the fourth industrial revolution, so countries are increasing their defense spending and updating their technology to the latest technology that is available. Education, people who are mid-career professionals or are ready to transition to different roles. There's going to be a demand for teachers. And then if you're in a country that has a very young population, that also leads to education. And then even in an aging population, healthcare and education are extremely valuable. It just may look different depending on your country's demographics. And also industries that tend to actually be very sensitive to these times where there may be a lot of layoffs are industries that are very dependent on consumer spending or even outside financing. So think of tech startups, think of retail companies, think of construction, think of real estate. Those are the industries that tend to be very sensitive during times like this because they're very dependent on outside financing as well as consumer spending. So as a labor economist, we don't just look at, okay, is inflation rising? Are the cost of goods and services still high? We take it a step further and we begin to think about how is this going to impact jobs and the economy? So I hope you guys found this video helpful and how to think like a labor economist because we are living in very interesting times to where we're entering into this fourth industrial revolution. And then at the same time, because of everything that's going on in the world, we see rising inflation. And if you understand how the economy responds to times like this, it will help you make better decisions for you and your family to thrive during this time. And if you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe and share it with someone. And I'll see you guys next time.